One of the games that I'm extremely looking forward to this year is Cruis'n Blast for the Nintendo Switch. It comes out on September 14th, just a few short weeks away. It's only $39.99. This is a game made by Raw Thrills, and it was originally released in the arcade just a few years ago. And I remember going to my local Round 1 arcade. We're lucky to have one nearby me. They have a lot of cool stuff there. And seeing this game for the first time, and just, I was in awe. I was like, holy crap, a new Cruis'n game? Nintendo's logo is on the side of it? What is really going on here? And I played it in the arcade. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really loved this style of game. Back in the day when Cruis'n USA first came out, back in 1994, that was another game I was just really addicted to. I love arcade games, and you know, it's not really possible for me to source these original arcade machines or even buy this Cruis'n Blast arcade machine, which I believe when I looked into it goes for around $10,000. Not just the money that I don't have, but I don't have the space. So having access to these games in the home was always a cool thing. But going back, 1994, when Cruis'n USA was first released, I remember going to Raging Waters out in San Dimas, California. It's a water park. They used to have a little arcade. They no longer do, but I always wondered after having been there back in the 90s, like, man, this little arcade they had, all these kids going around getting all soaking wet and dripping water all over these machines. Does this really make sense? But regardless, I'd be dripping wet, sitting on the Cruis'n USA machine, playing that game for a bunch while I should have been going down water slides and whatnot. And I loved it. And when it was eventually released on the Nintendo 64, that was another thing. I've always said it. I loved when arcade games came home because, like I just stated, you know, it's kind of difficult money-wise, space-wise to have arcade machines. This is always a cool thing. So with Cruis'n Blast coming out very soon, I'm really looking forward to it. But recently I saw a little article, an interview with Eugene Jarvis. Eugene Jarvis is a veteran in the video game industry. He's a game designer and programmer. He did a bunch of pinball machines. He made games for Williams. A lot of crazy stuff. He worked on Defender, Robotron 2084, and the Cruis'n series. And now he has his own development studio, which is Raw Thrills, the company that made Cruis'n Blast. And he recently has been doing some interviews with a few different outlets, but with Nintendo Everything, I seen he had mentioned with these guys the possibility of bringing Cruis'n USA, Cruis'n World, and Cruis'n Exotica back home on the Nintendo Switch, and that got me really excited, man. I almost, if I could afford to and it made sense, I would be buying like 5 copies of Cruis'n Blast just to show how much interest there is out there. But obviously, I'm not that crazy. I don't have that much disposable income to buy a bunch of copies of one game. But I'm really excited and hoping that Cruis'n Blast does very well for the Switch, and Raw Thrills and Eugene Jarvis can possibly work on bringing the rest of the Cruis'n franchise to the Switch. That would be awesome, in my opinion. But here are his words with this interview with Nintendo Everything. He states, "There's an old saying that in this forever disposable world, a game coder is only as good as your last line of code, or in the case of an artist, your last pixel. So who knows what might happen? One idea would be to do a Switch retrocade type thing and bring back the classic Cruis'n arcade trilogy at full HD arcade resolution and 60 hertz frame rates on the Switch. 30 plus tracks, all 3 theme songs, Cruis'n World, yeah. Cruis'n Exotica, can you dig it? I can't wait." Those are his exact words, and I'm telling you right now, the love I had for those games, just dumb, simple fun, man. Like, that's one of the biggest things I'm into when it comes to gaming. I love like huge immersive experiences, like role-playing games, open world stuff, just story-driven games that take a lot of time and investment. I love that kind of stuff too, but it's always really difficult to dedicate time. I have to really pick and choose when it comes to those types of games. So I always kind of default back to playing a lot of retro stuff, or just, you know, certain newer releases that kind of scratch that itch. And it's a passion that I have. I love these old school games. and to get not the Nintendo 64 versions of these games. I think that would be sweet too, but arcade conversions for the Switch, that would be dope. The Nintendo 64 versions were awesome. Like, I had all 3 of them back in the day. Cruis'n USA was the one that I played the most because that was the one that, first came out. And I was really looking forward to it when I found out it was coming out for the Nintendo 64. But I played all 3 of them, really enjoyed them. Just simple racing games, arcade-style racing games. And to have that, to have the original arcade experience in HD resolutions on the Switch, I mean, that's an exciting prospect to me. I think it would be cool if they went, one step further and had the Nintendo 64 versions on there as well. That would be really interesting. That way you can kind of go back and forth if you wanted to anyway. Just more of a bonus. Like, maybe some people would just default to being like, you know what? I grew up with the Nintendo 64 versions, didn't play the arcade versions, so these are the ones I'm nostalgic for and just love playing those instead of the arcade. Or, vice versa. It doesn't really matter. Me, I would like to just play both of them because I've played all these games in the arcade and I played them all at home. So it would be cool kind of refreshing my memory on them because it's been a long-ass time since I've played the arcade versions of these games. I mean, it's quite obvious. Yeah, I said we have an arcade round 1 that's fairly close by. They were closed down for the longest time due to these dark times in this world. But previous to that and recently when they reopened, seeing a lot of this arcade stuff, it's so freaking awesome. I wish arcades didn't go away in the way that they did, since the late 90s, early 2000s, just kind of a unicorn type thing to find an arcade. But having an arcade that has some newer stuff in it, playing Cruis'n Blast was awesome, but haven't played the old ones in a long ass time in the arcade. Have played them on the Nintendo 64 here and there, and I still enjoy them on the Nintendo 64. So to have this collection possibly coming home would be dope. I mean, just plain and simple. I'm looking forward to it. I really hope Cruis'n Blast does well enough to where there's interest in bringing these back out on the Switch. That would be really cool. Let me know what you think. If you're interested in Cruis'n Blast, it's up for pre-order in numerous places. I pre-ordered it on BestBuy.com because they're giving you a free $10 gift card with purchase of the game after the game ships. They don't just give you the gift card right away, but after the game comes out, you get $10. You could use that for something else. So definitely recommend taking a look at Best Buy if that's a place you normally go to or have one around or pre-order games from. It's currently available right now. Check it out. Appreciate you guys. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. And boom. Bye.